So we're going to be working with reflexive verbs, and by the very nature of reflexive, it means that there's something going back on something. In this case, a reflexive verb is when the action is reflected back onto the subject. And you're looking at it already and you're going, okay, I'm seeing a little, it looks pretty regular except that there's this extra little word in here. And these are called the reflexive pronouns. Me, te, se, nu, vous, and se again. You've actually been working with reflexive verbs before, you just didn't know that that's actually what they were called. When you said je m'appelle for I, myself, call, this was actually a reflexive verb. This is why for you, yourself call, or my name is, or your name is, it was tu t'appelles. And it was the same, tu t'appelles. It's the same process of using the reflexive verb. You yourself call, or you call yourself, or your name is. So you've been working with these. Now we're just going to go a little bit further in depth with these. The French use reflexive verbs generally to talk about daily routines, such as se brosser, which means to brush. Like to brush yourself, if you were to say you're brushing your hair, se laver, which means to bathe oneself or to wash oneself. Se coucher, to put oneself to bed. Se lever, to get oneself up. Se réveiller, to wake oneself up. S'habiller, to dress oneself. Se déshabiller, to undress oneself. And se regarder, to look at oneself. And you're noticing that in the infinitives, I have the reflexive pronoun se in front of it. And you will see that in dictionaries as well. If it has se in front of it, it's a reflexive verb. So you're going to have to work it a little bit differently. That means that you've got to work with the reflexive pronoun. So for instance, if I wanted to say I'm washing myself, it's I, je, myself, me, lave. And notice that this is conjugated just like a regular ER verb, okay? So je me lave literally means I myself wash, or in English it would be I'm washing myself. In French English, which is what I'm asking you to work with, it would I myself wash. And now you're getting to understand why I'm wanting you to work with the French syntax or word order, because it really does come into play. So, tu te laves, you yourself wash, or you yourself are washing, to keep it present tense. Il, elle, on se lave, he himself washes, she herself washes, oneself washes. Nous lavons. Now, yes, this word is repeated. It looks strange, but in French, if you didn't have this word there, that would look strange to them. So, nous lavons, we wash ourselves. Vous lavez, you yourselves wash, or y'all's selves wash, if you want to take it to that plural form. And then il se lave and elle se lave. Again, these are going to sound alike, but they are spelled differently. And so this is they themselves wash, or they themselves are washing. So this is how you conjugate a reflexive verb, meaning that the action is reflected back onto the subject. So let's take this a little further. What if I wanted to make this negative? Well, you notice that I kept me lave, te lave, se lave, nous lavons, vous lavez, and se lave in the same color. And that is because you really need to think of these reflexive pronouns as part of this conjugated verb. Okay? So think of this together as the conjugated verb. Alright? And now it's going to start making a little more sense when we move into negation and passé composé. Alright? So let's go straight to negation. Let's say, no, I do not wash myself. Maybe you're just really, really tired and you had a long day and you're not taking a shower before you hit the bed. So, working with se lave again, if I wanted to say, I do not wash myself. Now think about this. Negation is putting ne pas around the conjugated verb. And in this case, our conjugated verb is the reflexive pronoun and the verb form. So the subject pronoun doesn't really matter at this point. So let's say it was je, okay? Now, me lave is the conjugated verb. And now we just need to put ne pas around the conjugated verb. So ne pas. So we have je ne me lave pas. I do not wash myself. Je ne me lave pas. Okay? Let's take this one to the another form. Let's say il or elle, plural. Same process. Il is going to be our subject pronoun. The conjugated form of the verb includes the reflexive pronoun. So we have se lave, and then I can just put ne pas around it. Okay, so il ne se lave pas. Now, what if we wanted to use nous? Same process. Nous, nous lavons pas. Again, your reflexive pronoun and your conjugated verb are the same. They are both considered the conjugated verb. And then ne pas goes around it. And then your subject pronoun is over here. So nous lavons pas. It's kind of a tongue twister. Nous lavons pas. Okay? So this is how you make negation with this. Now, if you are dealing with passé composé, it's a little bit different. The reflexive verbs generally take être as their helping verb. And as you know, the past participles that deal with être have to agree in both number, which is singular and plural, and gender, masculine or feminine, with the noun that they are working with. Okay? So and keep in mind also that that your reflexive pronoun is part of your conjugated verb. Now, if you want to follow along with me, I am in your book on page, well, I'm kind of going all through Unit 4. So when we are talking about passé composé with your reflexive verbs, I'm on page 183 or 183. Okay, so passé composé or reflexive verbs, the past participle agrees with the noun in number and gender because they take être as their helping verb. Now, it's going to go a little bit differently here. Just follow along. Être is actually going to go between the reflexive pronoun and the conjugated verb, or you'll see. So if I have je and my reflexive pronoun is me, right? Now this is where être is going to come into play. So we have suis, and now we get lave. And that's lave because er becomes e with an accent aigu, ir becomes I, and ru becomes you. So je me suis lavé. Okay? Now, if I am a girl, then I have to add an extra e here. Because if you remember our little masculine, feminine, singular, plural chart, masculine singular, there really is no ending. Masculine plural adds an s, feminine adds an e, and feminine plural adds an es. Okay? So, if I were working with il, it would be il, se, because that's my subject pronoun that goes my reflexive pronoun that goes with il. Conjugation of être, which is going to be a. Now, because these two are right next to each other, you're already probably thinking, hey, she's probably going to do this. And here I go. Ready? Alright. So now we've got that apostrophe there. And then I've got lave as my past participle. Let's bring this down to L. If I were doing L, it would be again, c'est. And then, what do you think is going to happen to this laver? If you said we're going to add an E because it's feminine singular, you're absolutely correct. Now, let's bring this down a little further. What if I said ils? I'm going to go ahead and put L's up there because you know it's coming. Alright? Again, the reflexive pronoun for il and elle, plural, is se again. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and do that. Our conjugation is sont because they are, right? Sont. Oh, sorry, I don't need that apostrophe. I need this E back because this is not a vowel. And then, going back to our past participle, laver, but it's masculine plural, so I need to add an S. And feminine plural, I'm going to add an ES. Okay? So this is passé composé with reflexive verbs. Reflexive pronoun, conjugation of être, past participle, which agrees with the subject in both number and gender. Okay? But let's take this yet further again. What if I wanted to ask questions using inversion? How does that work? Well, we're going to keep it present tense for now. Remember, passé composé is dealing with the past. Let's just work on present tense for now. And this is actually a little more forward in your book on page, I should have these marked, on page 161, okay? Now, if I am saying, and I'm also going to go over negation. Oh, we already did. So now we're dealing with inversion. Inversion is going to, you actually kind of know this already. Well, no, you probably don't. Alright, so when you're dealing with inversion, it is taking the subject pronoun and putting it after the conjugated verb in order to ask a question. Now, if you remember, I said that you really need to consider that me lave is your conjugated verb, right? If you're dealing with je. If you're dealing with tu, it's te lave, alright? So we're going to work with this one for now. So tu te lave. Now, this is my subject pronoun. This whole thing acts as my conjugated verb. So when I switch these and put a hyphen, it's going to be te lave tu. Have you washed yourself? Or are you washing yourself? Okay? Te lave tu. Let's break this down to il. If il is my subject pronoun, I'm making a question, so it would be se lave il. But if you remember, if the verb ends in a vowel and your subject pronoun is il, elle, or on, you can't just leave it like this. Do you remember what letter you have to put in between there? A hyphen, T hyphen. So now it's se lave-t-il, okay? And it just breaks it up because without it, se lave-il, it blurs too much together. So you need that T in there to separate it. So se lave-t-il, and that's he is washing himself, okay? So this is how you use inversion with a subject pronoun, with reflexive verbs. Now, one more thing, imperatives. Oh goody, we're just going to go all the way through. Alright, when you're dealing with imperatives, and this actually really isn't in your book, but, well, not in the one that we are using, not in the unit that we're at right now, but if you're dealing with the imperatives of verb, it's pretty much the same process. You've got to think of that subject, that reflexive pronoun as part of your conjugated verb. So, if I am dealing with imperatives, all right, just like, well, I'm just going to teach it to you and then we'll just go from there. So, for instance, if I wanted to say, y'all need to wake up, all right, and I'm using se réveiller. Well, vous vous réveillez, okay, is the conjugation of this in the regular form. And if you remember, when you are using your imperative form, you really are only using the conjugation of the verb, which, if this is the conjugated part of the verb, okay, the reflexive pronoun is part of it, okay. Now, when you are using imperatives with reflexive verbs, you simply put a hyphen and switch them around, and now you've got the imperative, réveillez-vous, okay? If I wanted to say, let's wake up, we need to wake up, well, réveillons-nous, okay? Now if you remember ER verbs, which réveiller happens to be one, when you're dealing with the to command form, you remove that E off of the imperative form of it, right? So it would not be réveille, it would be réveille without the E. The other thing with the to form when you are dealing with reflexive verbs for the imperative is that it's not réveille-te, it's réveille-toi. So the reflexive verbs, when you're dealing with that with the to form, they're a little bit different. It's not just te anymore. It is toi. Réveille-toi. And don't forget, you don't add that S on the ER form of it. All right. So, but the rest of them are all pretty much the same. But if I don't have an IR verb here, but if I had one, toi would stay the same if I was dealing with to. Okay. So these are your reflexive verbs, kind of all put together. I know it was a lot, but again, practice, practice, practice. Watch this video as many times as you need to, and bonne chance.